Welcome to Therapy, Tech, and Takeout. We're an entrepreneur and therapist exploring how technology is shaping mental health and what it means for how we live, connect, and care for ourselves. I'm Toni Teixeira. I'm the therapist.
And I'm Jackie Toale. I'm the entrepreneur.
And I'm really excited about this episode today. We're going to be exploring the intersection of trauma healing, human connection, and emerging technology. Coach Rachel Grant and Padmaja Suren are with us today to discuss how AI-supported practice tools can help survivors build confidence, strengthen communication skills, and rehearse difficult conversations in a safe, supportive environment. Together, they're going to explore with us what AI can offer as a companion tool in healing work, why technology must be grounded in trauma-informed principles, and what the future of survivor-centered support could look like. And I especially love this because sometimes we talk about AI in not such a positive light, so there's some really great things here. So Coach Rachel is a disruptor of traditional modes of healing, creator of Beyond the Surviving program, international speaker, podcast host, and sexual abuse recovery coach with an MA in counseling psychology. And she's also author of Beyond Surviving, the Final Stage in Recovery from Sexual Abuse. Padmaja Suren has a professional background as a software developer and a graduate degree in ed tech with a focus on virtual reality for learning at Harvard University. Her firsthand experience as a sexual trauma survivor influenced the design of Canopy Care. And Padmaja also has some other really important inspirations for this topic that I'm going to let you really share as we start talking about this. So, Jackie.
Absolutely. And I think, let's just jump right in. Can you guys explain sort of what you've created and why you felt it was worth exploring?
Absolutely. Yeah, Padmaja, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. And I'm happy to be on this show and happy to answer all the questions that you're coming up with. So the reason why I started this was for my own personal experience, what I did not get from the therapy community, what I did not get from society many years long after my sexual trauma situations happened. So I think in general, women like me who have lived experiences of sexual trauma do not have access to resources after the initial crisis experience is over. So we are just left to deal with it ourselves. And most of the time we turn inwards, shaming ourselves for not being successful in whatever it is that we are supposed to be. And therapy teaches us some skills. There is whole part of psychoeducation that happens during therapy. But the one area that I felt was not, I did not get enough of was the interpersonal skill building. And while I understood all the communication frameworks, all the negotiation frameworks, all the conflict resolution frameworks, somehow when I am in the situation, I just find myself freezing. And I can't talk anything more. Either I explode or I shut down, and I wasn't happy with myself about it. And I used to practice in front of a mirror. That still was helpful, but the mirror doesn't push back. It only tells you how much ever you can make the situation difficult, right? So you have to keep imagining. So 10 years ago, when machine learning was just coming up, at that time I thought, we can use this for psychoeducation of women who have gone through this experience across the world, where trauma and trauma counseling and therapy is not available or is considered taboo. So I can just offer this as educational material. I can translate it to any languages, and I can make it into audio. So the technology was there. For me, it was like, yeah, I can make it all happen. But what I was originally proposing was actually building a large language model. And I didn't realize it back then. So it took me 10 years to really understand, okay, this is what I'm trying to build. I don't have the resources for it. And then I let that go because that was a nonprofit. I couldn't sustain it. And then when ChatGPT came out in 2022, I was like, yay, 90% of the work is already done. How can I take it even further? And that's when the idea of narrowing it down to interpersonal relationship skills and having a practice partner came about. So I don't have to practice in front of a mirror. I can practice with an avatar. Because of the AI generative capabilities, I don't have to script the conversation. The avatar can generatively respond back to me based on what I ask you to do, push back more or, be gentle. I'm not ready for that. So I can structure it in any way I want. So that's the whole idea behind what I'm building.
I love that story. I think that's so interesting. And how did you connect with Coach Rachel?
Yeah, I was her client.
That's
And,
awesome.
Yes, I was her client, and it was just such a transformative experience for me because the coaching, that is the first time I've ever been in coaching for trauma. I've been in coaching for other things, but I never thought there was trauma coaching possible. And I saw how she led every month during the coaching program. It was very clearly about education about the brain, and then corresponding skills based on that evidence, based on that framework. These are the practices that you have to do. So every month, as I continue to have that shift in my brain about, okay, this is what trauma is, this is how it impacts, whether or not I was sincere in the practice of the tools, it still created an impact in me. So it felt like, all right, this is the way to go, because trauma affects you in so many different ways. And we know back then, I was very ashamed of that. But after COVID, after Black Lives Matter movement came out, like, it got revealed across the world, people are suffering from trauma. 70% of the world's population has trauma. So what is there to be ashamed about? It is about how we can change the course of the brain pathways that are thinking in a certain way as a result of our traumatic experiences, whatever they may be. So what is shameful about learning something new? So that is why I'm very much believing in trauma coaching or trauma healing as actually a learning process.
Wow. Yeah. I love how I'm a therapist, right? So like we can look at ways of healing, and there can be many. And the educational piece, no matter what kind of therapy or modality you use, it's so important that gets folded into and weaved into all of it. So that cuts across for everyone. Without that, it takes away, I agree with you, like some of that shame. Rachel, your program is about going beyond surviving and helping survivors get their voice and reconnect and build trust in themselves. Where do you see AI fitting into all of this, into this journey?
Yeah, it's been so fascinating when Padmaja, reached out to me about this project and do I want to like play a part in it and what might that look like? I was super stoked about this. I was a hardcore like AI denier for a very long time. I was like, what is this mess? Get it out of here. I don't know about this. I mean, I had so much suspicion, so much resistance. And but in sitting in the conversations and thinking about it and looking at the way in which it makes things accessible for people. And, you can have conversations. It's never going to replace like people, right? Of course, we know that. But what I started to see as far as how it could support some of the work that I do, right? I'm constantly in my sessions, like, kind of trying things out with clients, giving them opportunities. Here's how you might say that. Let's practice that. And now here's a tool that they can go and continue that practice between sessions, right? And maybe get different variations or, different things might come up. The AI might push a question that I wouldn't push, but that allows them to like explore a different aspect of a situation or a circumstance. And I think, that place of like, there's just no judgment in AI, I would say, right? So they can kind of also like, let that go. Yeah. You have to kind of learn that and pace that in building a relationship with a therapist or with a coach, getting to that place of kind of comfort of like saying the thing that you really want to say. But when it's AI, you can just kind of put it out there. And so I see, that and so many more like ways that this could be of help and support to people and just be a nice kind of a way to add in additional practices and perspective and resource in when you're doing healing work and along that path and road that you're doing. Yeah.
How do you guys handle, the inevitable things with AI that go in a way we're not expecting? We see it across all different types of companies and integrating AI tools and things like that. This is such a sensitive area. How have you guys handled managing that? Has it come up or what are you looking for?
Man,
I'm sure.
this is like
Listen,
the top of the list of things that we're pulling our hair out about lately. I mean, it's a process, right? Padmaja, I'll let you
yeah.
talk about the tech side of it because it is so fascinating. And yeah, go ahead, Padmaja.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, of course, right? Like when ChatGPT, so I do not know how many of you actually know the history. I've been in the field. I've been dealing with data. My main job is on data and analytics. So I've been dealing with data all my life, my 30-year career in engineering, in technology. That is what I've been dealing with. So I'm always very, very cautious about using any app. Even if, no matter how many people may say this is helpful app, I never use it. Precisely because I know how the data gets handled, despite all the privacy disclaimers that they give you, despite all the things that they assure you they're not going to do with your data. I know what's happening behind the scenes because I'm managing those databases. So I'm very, very skeptical about the apps that come out. And I've seen over the years since like I said, back when machine learning was starting to come into the, vocabulary to us, to the general public, I've been thinking about how we can harness it. But even during that time, we had a lot of apps that come out towards the end of, that decade with Calm, Insight, all of those things, which seem to address, mental health and well-being. But still we know and then talk therapy, after COVID, everybody went into Zoom, therapy went online, and we had all those better health or whatever, those other Talkspace and all those things came out. We had therapists just joining as gig workers. So we had all these different variations of technology being used. And underneath every technology, there is some level of AI. That's something people may not know, but it has always been there. It is not new. What is new now is that the AI has become much more powerful enough that we as developers didn't have to sit and navigate, like tweak it so much more. We just have to tune a little bit and it does much more. So that is the only difference. That's why it has become explosively so into the conversation. At the same time, another thing to notice politically, being a woman in the field that I am in, I always have to be aware of this. I am the only woman in a team. I am the only representative bringing a voice of who this particular technology we are building is going to be impacting. And I've not always been successful in promoting and advocating, right? But my counterparts who have been in the domain, who have been in the industry, some of them have actually built the large language models, have been systematically pushed out of the industry. So in 2020, Timnit Gebru, who was at Google, she was the very first one to publish a very famous paper called Stochastic Parrots that talked about the large language models, how they are just parrots, just regurgitating what they have been trained, and that they should not be commercialized. And for that, she was pushed out of Google. And systematically, many women who have been defining the technology have been pushed out, to the point where last November, another senior leader from Google, Jeffrey Hinton, said, if AI, AI needs to be built with maternal instincts, otherwise it's going to kill us. I'm like, and I don't know how to build it. I'm like, of course you don't know how to build it. That's the woman's role. And you pushed out all the women. You did not speak up when your employer pushed out a woman. And throughout all the, period of time. So what we are seeing now is the impact of 10, 15 years of actions pushing out women from technology. And now we are all like, oh my God, it's going to take over the world. But I wanted to take a different look at this, and primarily because not everybody understands the history of it. The very first AI system was built by a woman. This was Ada Lovelace, who was actually a daughter of Lord Byron, who is a poet. And she created the first what's called analytical engine. She worked with another guy called Charles Babbage, and he created the calculator. She took it even further and said, this is an analytical engine that can actually write poems. There's like limitless applications it has. And she was not even, recognized very well, but she was the first person to write AI. So my case, the statement that I'm saying very confidently is that AI always belongs to women. We have built it. So we know how to build it safely. And as long as we are not motivated by, immediate profit, there is a different way to build it. We can build it safely. It is possible. And that is what I'm doing. I think I talked a little too much. So
No, so interesting.
It's really interesting.
I just like really so appreciate what you shared to bring women back to this. It feels so dangerous. And then listening to how you were talking about it, I'm like, wow, we could have a safety net with this. We could make this safe. Like that feels really hopeful. Actually,
yes,
I was
that
really
is exactly my
moved by
point. That's exactly my point when I talk to women. Like I have been in this field. I didn't want many times I felt like I want to step out because of the hostility and the toxicity of the industry. But I always held on because if I leave, who is going to come in my place? Isn't going to be another mediocre white male. And I'm going to lose this position where I have the ability to do that. But now I have stepped out. I'm doing my own stuff. But still, I want women to understand it is still possible for you to enter in. It is still possible for all of us to take ownership of this AI and steer it in a direction that we want it to be steered. And that is one of my desires in bringing about Canopy Care Academy. So I'm calling it Canopy Care precisely because it is creating a safety net around the community that's most vulnerable, which are women like me who have experienced sexual trauma, who have difficulty trusting anything in the world, whether machine or men, right? So how can we really build that, address that? And my original company is My3 Metaverse, and that is the one that's building the technology that Canopy Care is using. And this is a demonstration of how AI can be built with safety in mind.
Mm-hmm. I'll just add to that, safety doesn't mean perfection. And it's an interesting thing when you start dealing with a machine and a model, right? Because we start to get into this like, oh, it needs to never make a mistake. Oh, it should always be perfect, perfect, perfect. It should never say the wrong thing. And for me, my perspective is, personally from my own healing experience, I had plenty of therapists who said the wrong things. Right. And there's a spectrum of that, right? I've had some that said things that were detrimental that I had to really like recover from and heal from, and really jarred and shook me up and was like another layer of trauma to just a therapist who was a little careless or a little quick or a little whatever, or missed the point and just I needed to have a clarifying conversation or something with them. And even me as a coach, like I misstep. I say that, I say something that doesn't land well with a client, and then we have to kind of clean that up and I'm sure you've had that experience too, Toni, right? So it's this interesting kind of world where like safety doesn't exist in always getting it right in the human context. And how do we bring that a little bit over here and address the expectation that people do have of a machine to always get it right? So the right balance between absolutely, it's really how do you respond to if there's something that goes wrong, right? What's the catch? What's the safety net underneath if there's something that happens there? Where people can go or get support or express what happened or share or tell. And I think that being built in, to what's being created is, again, it's part of that feminine consciousness, right? That we're not here in like a place of rigidity, but being in flow and being in conversation and being in community.
It's a difference between right and wrong and relational.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think women, we think in terms of relationships and maintaining the relationships and a give and a back and a forth versus what you were talking about, Rachel, like thinking of the machine, it's right. It's just going to be right, whatever comes out. And then we're really stuck. Then we're at a loss when things go awry, and it's managing expectations needs to be part of that.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jackie? How is this all landing with you?
I think it's so interesting. And of course, my business brain is always on too, as far as I love the idea of reframing your approach to the tech space and capital. And that I come out of that space as well, but from the finance side, not the tech side. And I think it's really wonderful. But what is your vision for the company from a business perspective? I know you had the not-for-profit before, which I think is amazing and wonderful work. Is this going to tie into having some ability to help deliver on those things you had wanted to deliver on? Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I've learned since the time I last launched it as a nonprofit to now, I very consciously said I'm not launching a nonprofit. I very consciously said I am going to launch it as a for-profit, but a for-profit that can do good. Why not? We all deserve to pay our bills. everybody who works with me needs to pay their bills. So why should I not aspire for that? If I am abundant financially, then I am going to be able to be more abundant to the world in general. That is how we have to think. But somehow capitalism has taken over and gone into a different mode, which is why all of us women have to take ownership of these trajectories and bring it back. So one of the things I want to step back and address the technology piece is that I think you'll appreciate it, Toni. I am building the technology within a framework that I'm calling Tigress, and it stands for trauma-informed, gender-responsive, emotionally safe, and secure.
I love that.
Wow, I love that. Tigress, yeah. Woo!
It has a boundary from SAMHSA's 6 principles of trauma-informed.
Yeah.
And it uses the gender responsiveness from UN's RESPACT framework. And that there are certain components in that framework that specifically talk about relationship building for women who have experienced sexual violence. And then UNESCO's specifications on how to treat gender differences. So it takes all of these principles as the boundary and translates it into mission configurations. So it is not just the AI. AI is one component of the system that I'm building. And these principles bound the system. And the system, whether it is AI or any other component that I'm building, everything are controlled by these boundaries that I have set. So this is a learning platform. Tomorrow I'll have virtual reality sessions within there where women can actually do role-playing games. So instead of having a one-on-one avatar conversation, they'll be in a room full of men where they have to present their ideas. And there is one non-playing character pushing back, another one challenging her. How she is regulating her nervous system to be able to deliver that presentation in a way that's calmer, in a way that's confident, not losing her footing, right? So those are some of the things I envision in the future.
I love that.
Training, you're training the nervous system.
I want that.
Like, do this work. I'm all about that, right?
And can you imagine the guided visualizations really taking off in a way that's more embodied? And so those are the things I'm thinking of. And I'll be even more bolder. The longer vision is to really help women with the sexual side of it, the intimacy side of it as well. And that has been a problem for me too. So how can they actually have, for those of us who have had this experience, even getting the touch is very hard. Receiving touch is even very hard. So what if we have a sex doll that's a male sex doll that we can have this experience with? And these days we have intimate sexual toys that can measure your biophysiology. So how empowering will it be if I can understand what really excites me, what really turns me on? So those are not available for women who have had this experience, period, any women. And especially for single women like me, it gets even harder to get these kind of experiences built in unless I decide to recruit a guy to experiment with me, which feels exploitative for me. So that's where I'm
really
thinking.
safe.
Yeah, so the relationship is on the spectrum, right? One is the friendships, professional relationships, personal relationships, and then the intimacy. That is the piece that's still not addressed. No one wants to go there. So that's where my eye is headed towards. In terms of the commercialization, I have this grand vision that what I'm building is the framework and it can be dropped in any part of the world as a franchise model. And the local folks will be taking and owning it because it needs to be culturally relevant. Whatever I'm building is not just one size fits all. Even if I drop it within English-speaking nations, there are so many different subcultures. There are people who are from very strong family values, people who are very independent-minded, people who are LGBTQ, people who have other different sensitivities, neurodiverse folks. So there is a lot of personalization and customizations that can be done. We can harness the technology to assist us to make it scalable for us. So why not use it in that way? And all of those are like really groundbreaking approaches. There are pockets of companies doing that, startups doing that in different domains, but nothing is like bringing them together for a learning platform. Now, what does safety look in a virtual reality environment? Maybe the companies that are doing gaming are thinking about it, but or else if it is a virtual reality mental health session is thinking about safety in a different way. But where is the user agency there? Where is the survivor agency there? So there is always a third party that mediates who has power and control. And by virtue of using that particular app, you have to submit to the control that the app makes. You do not have the choice. So how do you bring these seemingly contradicting principles together? You want to give the survivor agency to define her experience, but at the same time, you don't want it to go wild. You want to be staying within a boundary. Will that feel claustrophobic for her, or is it safe? So these are the dilemmas that I'm dealing with currently. And I want to be explicit about it, but still, it's an experiment. So I don't know if I answered your question. So if my vision is that it'll be taken worldwide, and each region will have its own operating model, and it could be on a sliding scale fee of who cannot afford it will still be able to get, because I have a business structure where there is a nonprofit arm that can raise funds to support those who are unable to pay it, and then there is a for-profit arm that really makes it a monetizable product.
Makes complete sense.
This is great. I love this. I'm going to hone in on something that you said that maybe Rachel can help with too, because when you were talking about safety and choice, holding both of those things, that's what us therapists and Coach Rachel, I'm sure, like, that's what we do. We want to create the safest environment for our clients and give them choice to go, and we follow them or stand next to them, like, as we move down that road. So where do the humans come in, Rachel? What are the limitations? I'm sure you guys probably have had lots of conversations about that. And there's a lot of talk in the world right now about therapy and AI. And some of my clients go and said, oh, ChatGPT told me this. I'm sure you've seen that too, right? So where is the space for the humanness and the emotional healing and using this? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we got a little glimpse of what that could look like in the pilot program that we ran, because the way that we facilitated that was by having, I think we ended up with about 10 women, going and using, the AI model and having conversations, whatever they wanted. We didn't give them topics to discuss, whatever was up in their lives. So some of them were talking about trying to parent a teenager. Another was dealing with a lot of shame, another relationship with her sister that was really, difficult. One around, business and business development. And then myself and Dr. Estera would facilitate basically an hour-long training. We did a 4-week training, and we had, some intention behind those trainings. These are some additional skills that we wanted to teach on those calls, but a lot of it was also just meeting people where they were at. How did that show up? And then reflecting and adding to, I love that you got that from that conversation. Here's an additional perspective that I would offer as a coach, therapist, or have you thought about this part of it? And so it became, I think a good blend of them going and practicing and getting insight and support from the AI, but then coming into community. I think the fact that it was a group space as well was really dynamic, right? So now they're not just one-to-one anymore. They're also getting, that communal sensation, and, women healing with women is such a powerful thing. And so, I see, longer term, obviously, being able to do workshops, develop even further curriculum and things like that, and holding space for people. So they're not just in this bubble by themselves, them in the screen, but they can kind of pop out of that, come into a group space or come into a training or a workshop or something like that in addition. Yeah.
Great.
So one of the things we found out from the pilot, 100% of the participants said this hybrid model was helpful. And that's not surprising, right? And the AI can only go so much. We can only train it so much. We can put all of these frameworks, all of these boundaries. Boundaries are for safety, but they cannot replicate the empathy that a human brings, the insights that the human brings. There's the insights and the wisdom that has accumulated over a period of time by the professionals who have practiced their trade for so long. So my hope is that when people come and practice with the avatar, they will see, how far they can go. And they will feel that need, that they want to have much more support, and they will seek therapy. So therapy is not, looked at from the perspective of, oh, it's a shame to be in therapy, which is what many people from my part of the world, from India, feel that way. And for them to be able to access and see with a certain level of self-understanding developed, this is what I have practiced and this is where I feel stuck. And we saw that in the pilot when they met live with the coach and Coach Rachel and Dr. Estera, they were processing what came up in their sessions with the avatar. They felt I was left frustrated. I realized I cannot ask more to this avatar. And that was frustrating. So they are seeing the limits and they are acknowledging we do not want them to form that bond with the AI, right? AI keeps telling, oh yeah, do that, yes, you're right, empathizing with you. That is wrong. We do not. And so I specifically shut down the practice session is limited only to 15 minutes. I do not want to keep on talking for an hour and 2 hours and 3 hours. That is how you start forming a bond, right? You limit it, you shut it down so they understand, yes, this is a machine and I need to take my stuff elsewhere to a human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
ultimately,
love that.
Yeah.
like just to see it as a tool, right? Just like meditation or breath work or, nervous system reset practice or stretching or yoga, my 15 minutes with AI today, right? And doing a conversation and practicing communication, right? So really treating it very much as a tool that they add, to the kit of things that are supporting them in addition to their mentor, their guide that they have, in flesh and blood.
Love that. Love that.
I do too. And I love too the idea of, it's that person with the depth of knowledge and having practiced their trade. And then it also is that community.
Yes.
And so it's not even just that one-on-one personal bond. It's that bond of knowing I'm here with all these other people who are going through this and here to support one another. So I love how you brought all of those things together. I think that's truly unique in the space. And I think it, is a lot driven by the idea that you have a different model for how, you want this to operate. Your financial model is a lot different than other tools who are like really about engagement, keeping those eyeballs as long as you can, which is, leads to a bad place. So I love it. I'm so excited to know that this even exists. I'm fit. Is there a way for people to, work with you guys or have access to this tool? How does that work?
Yeah,
if folks are interested.
First of all, sign up on our website, canopycareacademy.com. And you can also personally reach out to me from there. I'll respond to you. And we are now hardening the security stance with what I just mentioned to you, the Tigress framework. We had a little aspects of it here and there in our pilot. We experimented with various things. Now I think I have a clear model. We are proceeding with hardening the system as a whole. It'll be ready for public in January, and we are primarily inviting coaches and clinicians to come into the platform. So because I know it is secure, yet I don't want to put the survivors into there right now. So I want them to have a personal human that they can go to. So I'm only inviting clinicians and coaches who can bring their clients in, just like what Rachel was talking about in the pilot. That may be an option. So there are multiple different ways you can structure those sessions, and we'll be onboarding you on that. We'll be giving you training on the AI itself. So there's a lot of how you can use the platform to really promote the healing that I know coaches and clinicians really, really want from their clients. You do not want your clients to be there for the rest of your life walking this healing path. You want them to really be independent. You want them to really get the tools that they want. And how can you give them in that accelerated options for them? So that's who I am focusing on. We are building a WhatsApp community for those who sign up as a founding coaches and clinicians, and you'll get some incentives being a part of that group because you are early adopters, and you get to shape as well the platform. While I'm building the bare minimum skeleton of it, there'll be more flesh and jazz and bells and whistles we can add depending on what you all want.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's such a smart way to go about it, starting out with, the clinician who we already know somebody has a one-to-one relationship. We know they have a support person in place. They know they have a mentor. And then helping clinicians and coaches start to think about creatively, like, hey, when I assign this, piece of homework or this practice, now, how could I also say, in addition to practicing this skill, I want you to go in to Canopy Care and do a session specifically around this, or try practicing this tool like that. And so, yeah, I think it's just going to be a really seamless way for people to come in and for clinicians and coaches to also see and try out the benefit to their own practice and what they get out of it themselves in addition to their clients. Yeah. So we're stoked about it. So yes,
Yeah.
Canopy Care Academy. Is it .org? .com? I already forgot.
.com. I'm not an org.
No.
We'll
Canopy
definitely
Care
put
Academy.
everything in the show notes, all the links.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
no,
Yeah.
I think it's so cool though, because like, also, your clients are going to AI, right? You
Yeah.
know they are. And now you have a way where you can say, hey, I get why you're doing that. Like, it makes complete sense. And here's like a good way of doing that. Where we can actually like supercharge our ability to work together and really like, multiply the effect. So I think that that's wonderful. I so love how you are developing something that filled the gaps that you saw. I mean, I think that's where all like, at least most wonderful and great and life-changing ideas come from. So I think that that's really wonderful. And I'm so excited.
I want to add one more thing. I want to add just one more thing. Like, Toni, you just mentioned how all your clients are going to ChatGPT and asking. So I don't know how many people are aware. You're actually giving your personal information to a third party that has continuously demonstrated they really don't care about keeping your data secure, right? But people have no alternates. So in the platform that I'm building, security and privacy come first, right? Which means we are even when we are using the login, your login is not your email address. It's a pseudonymous login. That's what it's called. So you never give your real identity. And when you have the conversation, we do not store your conversation either. There is only what's called ephemeral storage, which means only during the conversation, as far as it serves the purpose of the conversation, we store it and then we erase it. So none of your conversation gets stored anywhere. And even if we have to, even for that ephemeral storage, while storing it, we remove any personally identifying information from that storage. So this is just one aspect of the security features that I'm building in. There are others as well. For example, I'm not using a large language model. I'm using my own small language model because I do not need my language model to know everything in the world. I only want it to be an expert in coaching, an expert in interpersonal relationship skills, an expert in how to deliver like emotion regulation skill sets. So there is a very limited domain I want it to be an expert in, and I can narrow it down. So that way it is not giving you advice on how to bake a cake or how to jump from a big bridge, tall bridge. So those are some aspects of the security and safety features that I'm sharing with you, but there are others there that we can talk more.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your being here with us today.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having
Thank you
us.
for having us.
Absolutely.
We'll have everything in the show notes.
Yes, right. All right. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.